Hey everyone, Cody Menz here. In this video, I have a small little preview and kind of a breakdown of the Tier 8 Premium tank destroyer for Germany, the Jagdtiger Prototype. Now, this is different than the 8.8 centimeter Premium Jagdtiger that we already have at Tier 8. This tank was released alongside of loot boxes for a fall / like autumn event on the Asian and Australian servers recently, and at some point I'm sure it'll come to NA and EU, but at this point it's only on that server, which is kind of different, because usually all the servers kind of get stuff alongside of one another for events like this. In any event though, should you get this tank when it comes out? Is it good? Does it suck? As you might expect, it's a Jagdtiger down tiered from tier 9 down to tier 8. Jumping right into the comparisons, and we'll look at the armor here shortly. So your gun practically identical to what you have with the Jagdpanther and the Ferdinand at tier 8 already. So really good damage at 490, good penetration, premium rounds around 311 millimeters, and it travels pretty quickly. No surprises there. Your gun depression, you have a half a degree more gun depression than the 8.8 centimeter version of the Jagdtiger at tier 8. And your dispersion is not as good given the bigger gun. It's identical again to the Jagdpanther II and the Ferdinand. However, your DPM compared to those two tanks is much lower. So you do sacrifice a bit of DPM. You do have the highest hit points out of all the tanks though at 1600, and your armor is practically identical to the 8.8 centimeter version, which is pretty decent for a tier 8 tank. Especially against lower tiers, like your armor holds up a lot better than the Jagdpanther II and a lot better than Ferdinand against tier 7s, tier 6s shooting you, and obviously tier 8s, especially if they don't shoot premium rounds at you. Mobility, not great, where the specific power is the lowest out of all these tanks. Top speed, better than the Ferdinand and stuff, to where this tank does have decent terrain resistant values. Like it's pretty good. It's not as good as the Jagdpanther II, but it's better than both the Ferdinand and the standard 8.8 centimeter though. On the move accuracy is actually not awful as well. It's not as good as the 8.8, but it's actually not too bad compared to the other two. Finally, though, no surprises with the camouflage. They're pretty big tanks. They're all practically identical, and your V range, 370, isn't too great, but it's in line with the tech tree versions, just not the older premium with the Jagdtiger 8.8. Now, all these builds here don't have equipment, don't have field mods, nothing of the like. Now, getting into the tank armor wise, so this is again 250 millimeters pen, 120 millimeter gun. Your typical Jagdtiger. This tank's been out forever. The tier 8 basically already has the same armor scheme on the 8.8 as this one now does. This tank's been in the game files for several years now, to where I think they just threw it into the loot boxes. It's a new tank, different. People want it. I want it, just because I like having all the tanks. But is it worth getting? The armor's pretty good, for a tier 8. But people are gonna chew through you. Like, this is using 250 millimeters, where a lot of tier 8s have this, especially with premium rounds. People shooting standard at you, it's gonna be hard to pen you. Premium rounds will cut right through you, and lower tiers will struggle to pen you. So the armor is actually, pretty decent on this. But overall though, the tank, it's basically, if you already have the 8.8 centimeter, this has full matchmaking. So it does have the better gun, I feel like. Even though that one, it's a machine gun, it has really low pen. It could struggle against 8s and 9s. This has a pretty decent gun. You already have it on the tech tree ones, but you gain a little bit different chassis and armor scheme on this, which is nice. But is it actually worth it? I wouldn't necessarily go out of your way, because it does, ultimately it's really going to feel similar to the Ferdinand, probably the most out of them. I wouldn't specifically go out of your way, whether they sell this, a straight sale, or have it in loot boxes, something like that. You know, this tank, it's one of those where if you get it, you got a pretty good crew trainer, especially if you like these types of tanks, to where the Jagdtiger fits a lot better at tier 8 than it does at tier 9, just because it plays a little bit more like the tank was actually designed. But ultimately, though, there's nothing too, I guess, crazy or special about this tank. So hopefully this video helps you out, whether it's fighting the thing or whether or not you should get kind of hyped up to purchase it or go after it in a event coming up. Who knows? Might be soon here, might be later, but eventually I'm sure it will come, to the NA EU servers. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this video, and have a nice one. See you around.